says, the Alien Council has considered the Earth's environmental crisis and determined not to interfere at this time. In other words, there's the law of non-interference, so that here it appears as though the Council has set aside, the situation is so serious, and we are so fortunate that the Council has set aside the law of non-interference. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's astounding.
Yes, it is.
Well, why is it that we are so fortunate that they've set aside the law of non-interference?
Very good question. I've been asked that many times, and I asked the transgenders that. I says, here they were. They know, they monitor everything in our galaxy and out in the universe. They could see some of the planetary societies polluting their environment to total extinction. They did nothing. They didn't intervene. And yet in this case, on Earth, they decided they were going to save us. Isn't that a major, major change in their thinking and their attitude towards other alien societies? And the transgender said, yes. So I wanted to know the reasons why. And they said, for one thing, the Earth is unique in the universe. The emotional energies you have on Earth is unique. There is no other planet in the universe that has as much emotional energies as you have. That is the reason why, for example, the aliens are fascinated with the Earth. For example, during the last Winter Olympic Games in Vancouver, there were over 300 billion aliens who were watching the Winter Games. Why is it? Well, they watched our sports like hockey and football, this sort of thing, and they watched these people down there, the humans, yelling and screaming and crying and hooting and hollering and this sort of thing. They don't understand it because they don't have that kind of emotional energies, but they are fascinated by it. And that is the reason why they also monitor a lot of our communications and movies. And the Alpha Centaurians, for example, who are a very tough bunch of beings, they love our old Western movies. They know all about Tom Mix and Roy Rogers and all that sort of thing. They just love that kind of thing. So we are important in that aspect, is that we are unique. How come? Why are we unique? I'm not quite clear, but I'm going to get that clear with transgenders. I'm not quite clear on that. Although somebody said, well, yes, because we're God's special creation. Well, I don't know about that, but maybe. Anyway, and the other thing is that there was hope for us because they monitor us. They know us far better than we do. And so, especially the Pleiadians, who monitor us very, very closely and helped us over the past million of years, and they saw that there was hope for our spiritual development. Now, mind you, there are no religions amongst them, but let's not get confused with this now, because like someone mystic once said, is that there are no atheists in the universe. They only exist on Earth. Not a true statement, because they are very spiritual, but in a different way, because their understanding of the universe and of God and God's creation is so vastly beyond ours, is that they don't need the religious rituals and all this sort of thing for their relationship to God. So that is very important. And they saw hope in us. They saw that big spiritual change which is taking place. In fact, it's taking place now, according to the Mayan prophecies. And within the next 10 years, you will hardly recognize our world. You certainly will have a hard time recognizing our religions. So there's those two basic reasons, Alfred.
Yeah. May I just ask, and is there any factor that Jesus of Nazareth incarnated here?
Is there any what?
As part of the mix.
Yeah.
Is part of the mix that we had 2,000 years ago an incarnation like Jesus of Nazareth, in other words, a creator son, or not?
Christ was no accident.
Yeah, i.e. that could it be that one of the reasons why the law of non-interference has been set aside was that we had an incarnation 2,000 years ago of a creator's son on this planet.
Yeah. I was thinking more of free will and church and, in terms of doing things evil and this sort of thing. But Christ is, when he stood before Pilate, I asked the transcenders about that. Well, first of all, I said, did Christ really live on earth? And they said, yes. I said, did he walk on water? Yes. Did he cure the sick and dying? Yes. And the transcender said, and he took 2 loaves of bread and 5 fish, and he fed a multitude of 5,000 people. And then I said, and he was crucified? Yes. And he walked out of the tomb? Yes. So, this is a very unusual being, a being who can transcend the physical reality in which he lived. And, of course, that is true. But the thing is, of course, his message is not really in the Bible. I'm sorry to say this, Alfred, because what Christ wrote has in large extent been destroyed, but there's still some of it around, and it'll make its appearance within the next, I would say, about the next 4 or 5 years. But anyway, the thing is that Christ, when he stood before Pilate, and I asked the transgenders about that. So he stood before Pilate, and Pilate said, "Are you the king? Are you the Son of God?" And Christ said, "Yes." Unfortunately, he didn't say anymore. He should have explained it a little bit better. Because, Alfred, if you were there, the transcenders would say to you, or as they said to me, if you were standing before Pilate, and Pilate said to you, "Well, Alfred Weber, are you the Son of God?" And you would have to say yes, because we are all created by God. We all come from God. Our soul does, not our physical bodies. Let's not get confused with that. And so, but there are some souls, like the transcenders, for example, are vastly beyond, in experience and knowledge and spiritualism, vastly, and their concept of spiritualism vastly beyond ours. But there are souls like Christ who are, great spirits. There's no way of describing it. And his function in his existence, he goes around to different planetary systems, and he teaches what he taught. Basically, you are your brother's keeper. And so that is, and he's not coming back in body, of course, but his Christ consciousness is returning to Earth within the next 10 to 20 years. And it'll start off in Russia, as I think I wrote in my book, and it'll expand from there throughout the world.
Which is very interesting, because many that information has come dimensionally through other channels, such as Edgar Casey, that says that Russia will be the first source of Christ consciousness.
Yes, that's right.
Also, now, Stan, so we now have properly set the stage, I believe, and we're up to a very dramatic moment, and that moment is October 13th, 2010, at which you, I believe, were a very courageous individual to have published your book, to have published in your book, and to have taken a stand with that public date. And I wondered if you could share with us the process that you went through in publishing those dates, where there have been other individuals who have published those dates in the past, and things haven't occurred, and there's been a lot of disappointment and things like that.
Yes, Alfred. Predictions are very difficult to make because of the one basic element involved, which is the fundamentals of free will and choice. Now, all the aliens have all the souls throughout the universe have free will and choice. This is not unique to us. So the Palladians, who were sort of masterminding this UFO display, they considered all the factors involved, because they know us better. They know us far better than we know ourselves and the conditions on Earth. And once the Asian Council decided that they were going to intervene to save us from our environmental crisis, they decided, well, they simply cannot come down en masse. and create massive panic and fear and hysteria. They would do so gradually. And so about a year ago, just before my book went to print, about I think we were on January, February, but just before that, the transgenders told me, I was discussing this situation with them, and they said the alien council had decided then that they would intervene. I said, whoa, what a great decision, one of the greatest decisions in the drama of the universe. And that was fine. And then they were going to do so with this UFO display over our principal cities. That was the intent. Now, about 3 weeks ago, that didn't happen, by the way. They appeared over New York. About 3 weeks ago, when I was talking to transgender, they said that especially the Pleiadians, because they were Pleiadian spacecraft, and the Pleiadians determined that we weren't quite ready for that, and it would create too much fear and panic and hysteria if they did that over all our principal cities, and they would just focus in on one major city for now. And the process has started. It won't stop, but they would start, and they picked New York because it's an international city, cosmopolitan, and the people there are quite blasé, and so it'd be easier for them to accept UFOs up in their sky. And so this is what they decided to do, and this is what they did. It wasn't balloons or any of that damn nonsense. But anyway, the thing is, they did that. Now, so some people have then challenged me and says, well, where's all, they were supposed to be over all these principal cities, and that didn't occur. And I explained to them just what I've said. But I said the process has started. Now, they will appear over other cities in the near future. I will give that date sometimes, maybe in December, and I'm sticking my neck out again. And I know when I wrote that about October 13th, I know several of my friends and thought, oh, you're being foolish. That's a ridiculous thing to do, because predictions seldom turn out, and if it doesn't work out on October 13th, then your credibility is destroyed and your book is destroyed. And I said, yeah, I'm aware of that, but I had so much faith in the transgenders and what they were telling me that I decided I would risk that. And so I'd say maybe in December, I will publish through our website the potential dates for the next sightings, and then the transgenders tell me that will then accelerate, and then there'll be more sightings over the continents, and then it'll become almost appearances on a daily basis. So that's what that situation is there. Now, mind you, also, Alfred, I want to explain this. There are quite a number of people who said, yeah, but there are many other sightings as well over San Francisco, San Diego, many other places. I said, yes. And also over China, there was some rather some very strange things happening over China, such as some people correlate the sighting of a UFO with the disappearance of a village in the Qinling province of China. Have you read about that, Alfred?
Yes. Yes, I have.
That's a very, very strange situation. I have the information about that, and I can't divulge that right now. Did it happen? Yes. And I'll write about that, and I'll post it on my website in the near future.
Excellent. Now, what is all this leading up to?
It's leading up to it'll be not only the Pleiadians, but I think to a large extent the Pleiadians in the year 2015. Well, one of the things they will plan to do, of course, appear before the United Nations in 2014, in about 4 years' time.
Now, is that over the UN or in the UN?
They will appear at the UN.
You mean they will actually...
They will address the United Nations.
The Pleiadians will address...
Yes.
The United Nations.
And one of the reasons why, of course, they picked the Pleiadians as their spokesperson, so to speak, because the Pleiadians look more like us. They're about 8 to 10 feet tall. They're blonde, blue-eyed people, very fine features, and of course, a great many Pleiadians, as well as, practically all of the Alpha Centaurians and many others speak English. They have no difficulty in learning language. They also speak Russian and Chinese and French and German and so forth. They have no trouble, but they monitor all our communications, which most of it is in English. So they're very fluent.
Now, Stan, as a former NORAD officer, how are they going to get their ships to even land at the UN without NORAD scrambling jets.
Oh,